A woman rescues a black baby on the street, but her fiancé ends the relationship because of it. Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. Clara was filled with joy as her wedding day approached. She was set to marry Lucas, a bright young man who had recently graduated from college and was enrolled in a graduate program. Her mother, Miriam, saw great potential in him but wasn't pleased with his choice of a bride. A caregiver? What kind of match is she for my son, who's so focused on his studies? Miriam would mutter. Clara, unfazed, had already bought an elegant dress and had tried it on countless times, admiring her reflection in the mirror. But just 2 weeks before the wedding, something happened that turned her world upside down. While walking home through a deserted alley, Clara heard the faint cries of a baby. She looked behind some discarded boxes and found a baby boy with curly hair, no more than 6 months old, lying in a basket. The boy's dark eyes looked up at her, and his skin was a deep, warm shade. Clara lived nearby and quickly brought the baby home. Unsure of what to do next, she asked her neighbor to watch him while she ran out to buy essentials. Her neighbor, however, wasn't supportive. "You're out of your mind. Why did you bring him home? What are you going to do with him now?" the neighbor exclaimed. "I'll take him to the police tomorrow," Clara responded calmly. "How will you explain this? You'll get dragged into all sorts of trouble. Why do you need this kind of hassle?" the neighbor pressed. "Well, what should I do then?" Clara asked. "You shouldn't have picked him up. You're getting married soon. How will you explain this to Lucas?" "Lucas is understanding. He'll get it," Clara replied with hope in her voice. But Lucas didn't understand. He was suspicious and cold when Clara tried to explain. "You've been hiding things from me. Who knows how long you've been seeing someone? Maybe you're trying to force this child on me." "No, Clara, I'm sorry, but I don't want you or this baby." "How could you say that, Lucas? I've told you everything," Clara pleaded, but Lucas was unmoved. "Maybe you should find someone else. Someone who's already ready to accept a situation like this." "I can't be that person," he said before walking out the door. Clara cried for days, her hopes shattered. She tried calling Lucas several times, but he never answered. Finally, it was his mother, Miriam, who picked up the phone. "Leave my son alone," Miriam shouted. "You're not right for Lucas, and you're making a fool of yourself. You should have kept your secret until after the wedding, but now it's too late." Clara felt a wave of panic rising within her. "I didn't hide anything. I found the child just like I told you, right there in the alley. But I guess it doesn't matter anymore. Lucas has moved on," Miriam coldly replied. "Yes, he has. He's at a party today, and probably doesn't even remember you." Clara slowly hung up the phone and turned to the child. "Well, little one, we're in trouble now. But don't worry, we'll figure it out. We just need to leave this place. We can't afford the rent, and staying here doesn't make sense anymore. We'll go to the coast. My grandmother left me a house there. We'll make a new life." 7 years passed since Clara left the city. She settled in a small coastal town and gradually adjusted to her new reality. At first, the locals would glance curiously at Clara, who was always seen with a small boy by her side. But over time they accepted her and stopped asking questions. She named the child Tommy and eventually managed to obtain a birth certificate for him, though it wasn't easy. Her background in caregiving helped her secure a position at the local clinic, and the townspeople soon became familiar with her presence. Life moved slowly, each day blending into the next. Tommy called Clara Mom, and she took pride in it. To her, he was the most precious child in the world. She had long since let go of her past and embraced the idea that she would live out her days with her adopted son in peace. But fate had other plans. One day, a large car pulled up in front of Clara's modest home. A tall, well-dressed man and a young, stylish woman stepped out, followed by a young man in casual clothes. Clara watched them in surprise but knew they were there for a reason, and she feared she might have to part with Tommy. "Hello," the woman greeted, her voice carrying a slight accent. "We need to discuss something important." "Please come in," Clara said, trying to remain composed. At that moment, little Tommy peeked into the room. His eyes widened in surprise as the woman rushed over to him, tears streaming down her face as she scooped him up in her arms. The tall man joined in, hugging them both while Tommy looked around, confused. When the emotional reunion subsided, Clara invited them to sit down. She now understood these were Tommy's biological parents. Their driver, Martin, explained that the tall man was a high-ranking official at an international NGO, and the woman was his wife. They had endured a traumatic scandal that had resulted in their child being taken away. For years we thought he was gone. But then we heard a rumor about a woman with a child that matched his description. With Martin's help, we were able to find you. A few hours later, they left with Tommy, their long-lost son. Clara was heartbroken and fell ill for a week. Eventually, Martin came back to check on her. He reassured her that Tommy was doing well and would be given every opportunity for a bright future. "Thank you, Martin, for coming to tell me. I was worried about him. I had grown so attached," Clara said, her voice tinged with sadness. "You're remarkable, Clara. I've never met anyone with your kindness. You didn't care about judgment or obstacles. You just did what was right," Martin replied, admiration clear in his voice. After many conversations, Martin eventually asked Clara to marry him. She agreed but insisted on waiting a few months. "I don't have much, and I know you're not rich either. Let's keep it simple and save for just the rings. Besides, I need time to wrap things up here before we can start fresh together." As time passed, the wedding day drew near. The day before the ceremony, Martin picked Clara up and brought her to a small hotel. "You'll stay here tonight," he said. "In the morning, a stylist will come to get you ready. I want to surprise you with something special." Clara looked at the simple dress she had prepared herself. The next morning, she was woken by a knock on the door and greeted by a stylist ready to help with her hair and makeup. When she saw the dress Martin had prepared, she was astonished. "How much does this cost?" she asked in disbelief. "Don't worry about it. Just enjoy the day," the stylist replied. Clara could hardly believe her reflection. She didn't even recognize herself. As she stepped outside, a car waited to take her to the ceremony. Her nerves grew as she arrived at the elegant venue where guests were waiting, smiling and waving. "Martin, what does all this mean?" Clara asked when she saw him. "You're marrying someone who values you beyond measure," he replied with a smile. "But you're just a driver," Clara said, confused. "No, I'm more than that. I'm the friend of an ambassador whose child you saved," he explained. "And here they are." Clara turned to see Tommy running toward her. She knelt and embraced him as applause erupted from the guests, who all knew the incredible journey that had brought them here. 15 years passed, and Clara's life was filled with happiness. She had a daughter and a son with Martin, and had become the lead caregiver at a well-known clinic. One day, she treated a patient with severe injuries. After hours of surgery, she was approached by an anxious older woman. "Doctor, will my son survive?" "Yes, Miriam, your son Lucas will live. I did everything I could," Clara replied as she walked away exhausted. Miriam, stunned, asked a passing nurse about Clara. "Who is she?" "She's the best caregiver we have," the nurse answered. "She's also married to a respected official and has 2 wonderful children." Miriam and Lucas felt a pang of regret. They never imagined how wrong they could have been. Lucas, now just a schoolteacher struggling with alcoholism, wondered what could have been if he had stood by Clara. But it was too late. Life had moved on, and Clara had found a happiness they could no longer touch. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story.